Good afternoon, Malaysia. It's the 24th of February 2023, TGIF. It's also our big day out here in Malaysia. A lot of people are waiting the budget or the first budget to be announced by PMX. On today's show, I speak to Ahmad Ikram Abdullah, also known as Haji Ikram. He'll be talking about the care economy. He's a senior policy advisor from the Asia Foundation Malaysia, and we also get his perspective on the budget or pre-budget perspective. Nordin Abdullah and Dr. A.T. Kumaraja also joins us later, our usual suspects. I'm Jared Ratnam coming to you live from Wisma Bernama in Kuala Lumpur. You're watching The Brief on Bernama TV. As he walks into Parliament. Now, in studio with me, I have Haji Ahmad Ikram, the Senior Policy Advisor for the Asia Foundation in Malaysia, to talk about our pre-budget perspective. G, thank you very much for taking time off to be with us. Good to have you here in the studio.
Likewise, thank you for inviting me.
We're all very excited about the upcoming budget. What are your thoughts on the budget? I mean, it was quite a hefty budget that we put out last year, and of course that all needs to be reworked again, seeing as to where we were politically and where we are now, and the need for us to realign where we are as a nation. Yeah, what are your initial thoughts? And us as a middle-income economy, what are your thoughts on this? Yeah.
Thank you, Gerard. Let me give you another acronym. In this case, AMIC.
One more.
Another one. We're so good at that.
Can we spell this out, or can we pronounce this as in AMIC?
Yeah, it is called as AMIC.
Yeah.
And it represents, or it stands for Advanced Middle Income Countries. AMIC.
Okay.
Now, what are AMICs? AMICs are countries that have graduated from low income but have yet to reach high income status, as the name implies, of course.
Right.
But the issue here is economic enablers that promotes a country from low income to middle income are very much different from the enablers that would promote them from middle income to high income. For example, from low income to middle income, we are going to be looking at issues such as natural resources, cheap labor, for example. For middle income to high income, it's going to be something different. Probably an upgrading of the physical infrastructure, investments in strategic industries, and most importantly, high-skilled workers. That the Asia Foundation would like to see more reforms being made to support high-skilled workers, especially women, because as we aspire as a nation to become a high-income nation, so we need to be looking at this issue.
Right. So at this point, when you talk about retaining high-skilled women, what are the low-hanging fruits? Of course, it's a cliche using that, but having said that, I mean, we need to work with what we have. Apparently, many countries don't have much to work with post-COVID. Yeah. Now, if we want to retain high-skilled women in the workforce, what can we do? What are the few things we can do at this point?
Good question, Gerard. We did a study, actually, before we proceed to providing this solution. We did a study before this. We discovered that a lot of working women are leaving the workforce and they're not returning to the workforce. So that has got high implication to the country as we move towards.
You're worrying me. In my team, I have 3 women. Yeah. If they leave, what am I going to do?
You should be worried.
Yeah. Okay. So because you're saying,
because that is the trend that we're looking at the moment, based on the study that we have done. The issue here is, for Malaysia, it's a bit unique, because for some other countries, when women leave the workforce, they do return. But for Malaysia, when women do leave the workforce, they do not return. And we delve deeper into this, and based on our study, the main reason why women are leaving the workforce and they never come back is because they want to provide care for their elderly or for their children. So care is actually an issue that if the government could probably provide a support system to encourage a more viable care economy ecosystem, it will eventually help in promoting and retaining women to be in the workforce.
But I guess it's also in the language we use. I always get asked this question and said, you haven't been married in your 50s now, you should get married. I said, why? When you're older, you need someone to look after you. And that's the way we generally think of women in Asia? Do you think it's the way we are as a people that's hindering us from moving forward with this?
Yes, there is in fact a cultural issue that is involved in here, where in terms of culture, especially in Asia, women are looked upon as the traditional caregivers. In most countries, that is the case. In fact, if I can relate to you, there's a study by the International Labour Organization. It's a bit mouthful, but according to the study, 16.4 million hours are being provided each day for care services. Mm-hmm. And 76% of that 16 million hours are being taken care or being taken by the women themselves. So you can see the imbalance where the women are actually providing that care services, mm-hmm. and most of them are unpaid care, Gerard.
Mm-hmm. Most of them are unpaid.
Most of them are unpaid.
Well, a lot to unpack here. We've got a lot to talk about with regards to this. And of course, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll bring you the business brief. Also continue talking about retaining high-skilled women in the workforce. And a word that we're going to be talking about a lot today, or using a lot on the show, is care economy. Just let it percolate in your head. We'll come back and talk about that. We'll also bring you some business updates on Budget Day, and wheel in Nordin Abdullah shortly right here on the brief. Stay with us. Ikram and Gerard with you for the next half an hour. Digress a little bit, and maybe Haji can help us with this. Okay, we're talking about, currently today wanting to focus on the care economy, because apparently retaining high-skilled women in the workforce is another thing we're not quite serious about, and we need to start looking at that. Basically, I just want to give you a curveball here and ask you, what do you know about the care economy? Yeah, and Ikram will sambut with another question to you shortly. Yeah.
Well, it's hard to do better than Ikram, but one of the things when we look at this care economy, one of the things I want to see is in terms of the understanding the happiness index. And when we start thinking about the happiness index, we start thinking about how people are going to be happy and how we're going to take care of them. Of course, when you start to look at aged care and these kind of concerns, and not just the role of women within the economy, you start to realize there's a huge amount of people impacted. So if we start to take a more sustainable, a more humanistic approach to economic development, we'll realize that very quickly you'll come to the need to develop the care economy and start to build out the economy more than just trying to hit GDP numbers and these kind of things. So it's Malaysia developing as a nation that really has foretold the need for the development of this sector.
Right. Ikram, do you want to add anything Nordin saying to that?
Yeah. Very good points, Nordin. Nordin mentioned the word humanistic. And if we can relate care economy to the Madani, Malaysia Madani concept, which in the case of Malaysia Madani, the Prime Minister is espousing, we have one of the principles, which is care in there. And also the fact that at the moment, care economy in Malaysia is very much tied to the fact that we are moving towards an aging society. If I can share with you another statistic here, according to studies, by the year 2045, 17% of Malaysia's population will be 80 and above. So we are moving towards that. So probably for this budget, perhaps...
I hope you're not talking about Nordin, you and me.
We are included.
Yeah, we are included.
Probably not in this budget. Probably we may not be, looking at initiatives that would support care economy in this budget, particular budget. But I think perhaps the government should be looking into this in the long run.
Right. Nordin, your thoughts on this?
Well, Malaysia as a society is very family-based. So while those 17% are part of the bigger demographic picture, they're actually members of somebody's family. So someone probably in the M40 or even in the B40 are going to now be dealing with this demographic in terms of how to keep them, well-fed and well taken care of. I think one of the areas that I most concerned about is EPF, and we've seen now some of the data coming out of EPF in terms of those numbers. So the resources that are now available for people during that time is severely reduced. So actually, we're talking an argument whether it's going to be, are we worried about now, or are we worried about the future, or do we have to be worried about both in the same breath? So I think when we start to look at the economy of the care economy and the resources available, we have a little bit of a concern there that we need to start thinking about. So I think settling that internal family unit properly in place will actually help solve some of these broader economic and development issues as the country grows.
In short, what do you think is the role of the government in supporting the care economy this time around? Like I spoke to Ikram about this, and we talked about, so a lot of countries have very little to give because there's nothing much post the horrible COVID that we've seen. People are working with what they have. So what can be done now in order to support the care economy, and further to that, what you're talking about, the M40 group?
Well, what infrastructure can the government build, and what is the heaviest lifting that needs to be done when you're in that age group? Is actually going to be healthcare, and the cost of healthcare as well as the cost of living. These two things are going to be the things that weigh heavy on that group. So I think if in terms of cost of living, there's a lot being done around food security, but in terms of the healthcare system, and a lot of people saying, oh, shift budget out of healthcare, food security, and these kind of things. We're still dealing with a healthcare problem, even though the pandemic is over, simply because Malaysians are living longer. It's because they're eating better food. There's better health. Malaysia's a more developed country. So the planning that was correct 20, 30 years ago, and the allocations that were correct 20, 30 years ago, are no longer as valid as they should be, simply because we're managing success now. That we're part of a success story, and the demographics prove it, as well as the economics around it.
One acronym to take back, just taught to me by Ikram. It's called AMIC, AMIC. Think about that. We'll get back to you on Monday. Nordin, thank you very much for joining us. We hope to hear from you on Monday. Post-budget, of course, there'll be some exciting news coming from you, I think. Thank you very much, Nordin Abdullah, there joining us right here on Budget Day. Very quickly, you want to talk about what Nordin just said before we take a break? I should be taking a break soon, but yeah, I'll give you 1 minute for this.
Sure. Nordin made some very good points. I would also like to add that we can also look at care economy as a new source of economic growth, because there is increasing demand of care providers, not only in Malaysia, but in countries all over the world. And if we could perhaps provide some kind of incentives for companies, for agencies, to come up with the professionalization, or that's a bit more full, professionalization of care workers, and export these care workers overseas. That is actually one way of looking at it, in addition to having more entrepreneurs providing care services in the country.
Right. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I'll continue my chat with Haji, and also hopefully get in touch with Dr. A.T. Kumar Raja to get his views on FDIs. We need to start focusing on them. What needs to be done in order to retain some of these people that we have here, and to attract more into Malaysia. All that and more coming your way on The Brief. Stay with us. Thank you very much for staying with us right here on The Brief Friday's edition. This is just before we hit Budget hour. Budget 2023 is going to be tabled by Dato Sri Anwar Ibrahim, better known as PMX. That's going to be happening very, very soon. Now, before I get to Dato A.T., who is on the line, let's go back to the care economy and find out a little bit more. Why do we need to care about the care economy?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, the number of hours that are being provided for care services, at least at the moment, we find that it is provided by more women than men. And as a result of that, more women are leaving the workforce. And by leaving the workforce and not not returning to the workforce, it has an implication not only to the family of the women, but also an implication to the nation's economic growth in general as well. Because as I mentioned earlier also, as we move towards, the country move towards being a high-income nation, we need to make sure that we have a strong and highly skilled workforce to support that. And you just imagine if most of the workforce, in this case, if women leave the workforce, then we will have a negative impact to the growth, and also the fact that we will have a shorter or a smaller tax base in that sense.
Right.
So care economy again is actually not about elderly care, but there's also a subsector care economy in the form of child care, disability care, and also health.
Haji, if you can help us close this, what are your thoughts on what do you want to see happen this afternoon, very quickly?
Well, thank you, Gerard. I think the government has done a lot of work, a lot of good things on promoting care economy, care workers, promoting retaining highly skilled women in the workforce. But I think moving forward, we need to be looking at care economy as a new source of economic growth, as something that can provide jobs and opportunities for people, not something that there's a problem that we need to find a solution with, but it's something that is an opportunity for us, because everywhere in the world, care economy is gaining traction, and there is a high demand for that. As far as this afternoon is concerned, I think I believe it's going to be a very good budget for everybody.
Right. Thank you very much, Haji Ikram. Also, stay with us right here on Bernama TV. Taufik Issa will be on at 3 p.m. and he will take you pre and post budget right here on Bernama TV in Bahasa Melayu. Of course, we'll be back on Monday to give you more right here on The Brief. Have a great day ahead and stay with us right here on Bernama TV. Don't go anywhere.